Good morning. You're a boisterous bunch this morning. Welcome to this gathering. This is what a community of people should be doing. They should be glad to see each other. They should be excited to chat and catch up with one another. It's fantastic. As we gather here this morning, we do so in the spirit of community and in the spirit of all that's sacred, so that we might gather here in this circle to be community with one another, to seek wisdom with one another, to strengthen, to comfort, and to enliven one another. As we do this, we gather in this place that is so precious to so many of us, this building, this land that we caretake for the time that we're here, knowing that it has been taken care of by many in the past, and that we but borrow it from our descendants. And so we give thanks for all that has been and all that will be in this place that we gather today. We're going to share words that will kind of focus us and bring us into this space this morning with each other, and I'm going to speak the words entitled One, if you would respond with the words entitled All. We drink one water, breathe one air. We live under one sky, sharing our planetary home with diverse and wondrous expressions and forms of life. We are spiritual beings, living and loving, questioning and answering, trusting and doubting, thinking and feeling. We are a people of memory and tradition. We are an evolving people exploring ever-expanding understandings. In our fears and our love. We each have a place in this circle, whether we have Today we explore ways with each other in which, despite our differences, we seek to find ways to come together. This obviously is something that we perhaps take for granted in a spiritual community, but we are full of different thoughts, different ideas. We are different people. And whether we are talking about people within the church or people in our nation that have different ideas, or different countries that look at life in different ways, we are always challenged to find ways to make parallel roads merge together. Sometimes not so parallel to start with. Sometimes they seem like they're going in opposite directions. But we find ways, and we seek to find ways as spiritual beings to merge ourselves with others that we might find difference with. And so we explore that today. As we light this candle, we recognize how, although many things divide us, there are many, if not more, that bring us together. May this candle remind us this morning of all that we share with one another, the ways our humanity reaches beyond our small thinking, the way we are connected to all there is. May this candle be a reminder as we gather today. And so we share our intentions, which is a way of saying that we speak out loud the things we desire, the things we want out of this life and this world with one another, that we pray these into being by speaking them with each other. Let's say these words now. We come. I invite you to come. I have a story today. Good morning. Good morning, good morning. In Kids Spirit this month, we're learning all about peace. And there's lots of different ways to talk about peace, and there's lots of different activities that can help us learn about what peace is and how we build peace. Peace isn't just something that prime ministers and presidents talk about. Peace is something we all need to know about, because we all have friends, and we all have family, and we all need peace in our lives and in our world. I'm going to read a story called Up the Creek, which I kind of like because it's about a bear, a moose, and a beaver. And it seems kind of Canadian. I like it. This is by Nicholas Oldland. And you can see my pictures here, or you can look up on the walls, see the pictures. There once was a bear, a moose, and a beaver who were the best of friends, though they often disagreed. One sunny day, the moose, the bear, and the beaver decided to go canoeing. The moose wanted to steer, but so did the bear and the beaver, so they all sat in the stern, that's the back. With so much weight in the back of the canoe, it tipped and they ended up in the water. So they played eeny, meeny, miny, moe, and it was decided that the moose would steer, and they all settled back into the canoe and began to paddle. The bear insisted on paddling port side, but the beaver and the moose also preferred the left, and with everyone paddling on the same side, they traveled in circles. You know, this summer when I was in the canoe with my family, I realized that, the person in the back has to keep switching sides if the person in the front switches sides. Because they can see what's going on. Soon their arms got tired, so they began to switch sides. That's when they finally started to travel in a straight line. Phew. But just as they began to make progress, they came to a stop at a beaver dam. They all had different ideas as to how to get across. The beaver wanted to push the canoe, but that didn't work. The moose thought they should pull the canoe. That didn't work either. Fortunately, the bear figured it out. The only way across was to portage. That beaver is not doing much of the work, I don't think. I know. Back in the water, the bear, the moose, and the beaver settled into a rhythm and started to really enjoy paddling along the river. But it wasn't long before they began to argue. They argued so loudly that they didn't notice the current growing stronger or the quiet rumbling in the distance. They're saying some things here. Stop splashing. Keep paddling. I'm hungry. Until it was too late. Oh no, the river had turned into wild whitewater rapids. Thrown sideways underwater through the air and everywhere, the bear, the moose, and the beaver held on for their lives. The moose got like surfing there at the end. Did you see that? Exhausted, bruised, and wet, the three friends landed on a rock in the middle of the rapids. The moose wanted to burn the canoe to make a signal fire. Now, the bear wanted to throw the beaver to shore to get help. The beaver figured swimming to shore would be safer. They argued over whose plan was best well into the night. The next morning, it dawned on the bear, the moose, and the beaver that they would have to work together to make it home safely. We can do it. So they climbed back into their battered canoe, took a deep breath, and ran the rapids. They twisted leaped, crashed, and blasted through the water. The rapids were fierce, but with the bear's powerful strokes, the moose's steady hoof, and the beaver's clever commands, they set a true and clear course. At last, the bear, the moose, and the beaver made it to shore. Oh my gosh, look at their canoe. After a much-needed nap, the bear, the moose, and the beaver worked together to repair the canoe and the paddles, catch some fish, and cook lunch. Before they tucked into their meal, they all gave thanks for the wildest adventure they had ever had. Rested and relaxed, the bear, the moose, and the beaver were ready to set out for home. After taking a long look at the raging rapids, they decided to walk. And who could disagree with that? No. That's the end of that story. It's just a silly story to say that sometimes, to find peace in our lives, we have to find ways of working together, even when we disagree. The beaver, the moose, and the bear teach us a little lesson. And the birds. Yeah. So would you like to sing a song, and then we'll go to Kids Spirit, and the junior and senior highs in the room can go to Youth Cafe. But first, why don't we sing this song about peace? I've got peace like a river. Hey, and it goes with the story. The river in the story. I didn't even know that till right now. Amazing. Our first piece of wisdom today is in the form of a video, and it's a video that from a series that we've shown some of before. It's called The Symphony of Science, and if you've never seen these, it's a bit weird at first because it's taken important people in the world of science and physics and basically taken snippets of what they have to say and auto-tuned them into a melody and put them to a song with some quite amazing visuals. So if at first you're confused and thinking, what is this? You've been warned. But I'll just say that this particular video entitled The Greatest Show on Earth talks about our origins, talks about our evolution, and speaks to us in ways, I think, that are quite creative. So this is The Symphony of Science, The Greatest Show on Earth. This is a creative telling of our evolutionary science. May we find wisdom for our living.
And now from Isaiah 11, verses 1 to 9. On this humbled ground, a tiny shoot, hopeful and promising, will sprout from Jesse's stump. A branch will emerge from those roots to bear fruit. And on this child, from David's line, the Spirit of the Eternal One will alight and rest. By the spirit of wisdom and discernment, this one will shine like the dew. By the spirit of counsel and strength, this one will judge fairly and act courageously. By the spirit of knowledge and reverence of all, this one will take pleasure in honoring the eternal, will determine fairness and equity, will consider more than meets the eye, so that even those who can't afford a good defense will nevertheless get a fair and equitable judgment. With just a word, this one will end wickedness and abolish oppression. With nothing more than a breath, will destroy evil, will be clothed with righteousness and truth. A day will come when the wolf will lie peacefully beside the lamb, and the leopard will lie down with the young goat. The calf and yearling, newborn and slow, will rest secure with the lion, and a little child will tend them all. Bears will graze with the cows they used to attack. Even their young will rest together, and the lion will eat hay like gentle oxen. Neither will a baby who plays next to a cobra's hole, nor a toddler who sticks his hand into a nest of vipers, suffer harm. All my holy mountain will be free of anything hurtful or destructive, for as the waters fill the sea, the entire earth will be filled with the knowledge of the eternal. This is a vision of the peaceable kingdom from the prophetic tradition of ancient Israel.
May we find wisdom for our living. The earth is our cradle, our ground and our home. The sky is our blanket, protective and warm. The stars are our ancestors, ancient and bright. Their glow is a glimpse of our life's burning light. The creatures of land, the swimmers of sea, the birds of the air, the green plants and trees, they're all our siblings with equal share in earth as our home and duty to care. Our ancient atoms arranged and reformed connect us and bind us with the stuff of the stars. When all is over, our substance returned to our elements' birthplace, our atoms next turn. Two parallel roads. One runs on the ancient myth that we've been told about humanity for generations, that even though we don't tell it as much anymore, still resides deep within us and our culture. This myth about being the pinnacle of creation, that we are, as humans, the climax of design that is unique and fashioned in the image of the Creator. And on another road runs scientific narrative influenced by the work of Darwin and others who built on the assumptions that evolution is a contest of intense competition for survival. The survival of the fittest, the winners being the species and the traits that most adapted to their environment, every species finding itself in a fierce battle to survive. What's really fascinating and beautiful about living in the time that we do is that we have witnessed, in some ways, the merging of these two parallel ideas. That science and religion are not at odds with one another or going in different directions necessarily. But there is a narrative that is emerging that is much more engaging and that draws us into the best wisdom of each. It's an exciting thought to be hearing a newer version of life's long development, not as a journey of only fierce competition, but a journey of creative responses. Evolution, rather than being boiled down to this simple dog-eat-dog world of survival of the fittest, is being seen as various species and various times of responding to the conditions of the moment in creative and increasingly complex ways. Consider all the seemingly chance moments in the billions of years of evolution that provided just the right conditions for life. From the Big Bang of a tiny speck of energy that exploded with massive energy, to the birth and death of stars that birthed the earliest galaxies, the heavy elements that are the foundation of all matter, and that provided the conditions for a solar system and a planet like ours to emerge. We've known for a long time that our Earth is just in the right place at the right time. That it's the perfect concoction of material. It's just the right distance from our star. Enough warmth and heat and energy, and far enough for the cooling of the molten rock that forms the land and the crust of our planet. It's neither a ball of gas or barren rock. It's amazing to realize that we're all here because, for instance, of single-celled bacteria, which for most of us in our lives, in our visits to the doctor, is the bane of our existence, but without whom we wouldn't be here. That those single-celled bacteria, after millions of years, began to innovate, to mobilize, to act together because of a crisis, and to not just survive, but to thrive, and to not just keep dividing, but to emerge in a new form, with a nucleus that allowed merging with other cells and propelled life forward in great diversity. All these things that happened because of a crisis, because of something that was just right at the right time, because of life's immense creativity. These great moments of coming together, they allow something in us to take a look at ourselves, perhaps, in a new way. I don't think that we're at a place in human evolution where we'll suddenly grow an extra limb because we need to live in a different environment like the early sea creatures did when they needed to walk on land. But all the same, evolution can't be seen in the micro. It can only be seen from a long distance of time and space. And so we have yet to know how our human species is evolving and emerging in new ways even now. But I think it's very important for us to recognize that when we bring these often seen parallel roads of science and spirituality together, that we recognize that there is this new narrative. That we don't have to see that we've got here just by winning a genetic battle, or by beating out our competitors for food, or light, or air. Or at least we didn't get here solely by those means. We got here through a long line of cooperative ventures, of symbiosis, of discovering mutually beneficial relationships. That the development of plants on this planet went hand in hand with the development of insects and birds. May seem obvious, but to recognize that they could happen together only because they helped each other spread their seeds and they provided food for another. That in that relationship and in that cooperation is where something new happens. I wonder if this history of cooperation is one of the reasons that our deepest instincts and our imaginations dream of life in the kind of idyllic ways that we heard in Isaiah's vision. Many of us come to this text with much different eyes than those who were hearing this vision for the first time about 29 centuries ago. The idea that natural enemies can be friends and all can be harmonious, that a lion and a lamb can lie down with each other, or for goodness sakes, that the beasts of the jungle, the meat eaters, will suddenly start eating hay alongside the oxen. But if we move past our 21st century eyes and minds in seeing how ludicrous that really sounds on the surface, if we move past that and we ask just who this text is talking about, we might come at it with new eyes. We dream of peaceful coexistence that is all summed up in this metaphor that Isaiah gives to us. It's a vision, really, of respect, of mutuality, of cooperation, like that which has been evolving on our planet from the beginning. A kind of cooperation and empathy that would have us transcend our base animal instincts. A kind of consciousness that might one day evolve so that we respond with more than anger, eat or be eaten, fight or flight response. Is this the kind of vision that wants to tap into our long history of evolution and push it further once more, moving us to decide, act, and think based on our higher motivations, our more complex values that we might learn and remember when we talk about cooperation, respect, peace? It turns out, I think, that Isaiah, after all, was not talking about some future perfect vision of the world where all these animals literally are doing these things with one another. Isaiah is talking to us, whenever we read it right now, about we animals. That we might merge our need and desire to survive with the rational, logical, emotional, and intellectual wisdom of the ages that teaches us that cooperation helps us survive better than brute strength or sheer cunning. Yeah, this dream is not about animals, after all. It's about us. It's a vision that imagines us bringing all the best of our humanity to the challenges of relationships between our human groups, between us as individuals, between us as nations. The prophet imagines that we, the strong and the weak, could be partners, not enemies. It imagines that nations with different resources and different priorities could live side by side by sharing the best of what they have to offer with each other, without violence, without exploitation. The prophet imagines a respect between ethnicities that moves beyond dominator and dominated, beyond the powerful and the powerless. And the prophet imagines a world where our puny thoughts on religion, on politics, on economic systems are not more important than the energy we spend on food and health and safety for each person. It turns out it's actually pretty radical after all. Not the way we thought it was. But it's certainly not this picture, is it? It's not that. It's something else. It's amazing what happens when a prophet speaks. It's valuable regardless of its time and its place. It doesn't matter that this was written in the 8th century before the Common Era. It matters that it was written in a time of upheaval and of war. It was no less relevant then in that 8th century as it was in the 1st century, when another prophet named Jesus suggested that loving one's neighbor and friends was easy and anyone could do that. Thank you very much. The harder challenge is to love one's enemies. To love those who don't love you back. It's a powerful image, and it was no less relevant in the 1st century as it is in the 21st century, when the same prophetic call suggesting that we're more than the sum of our instincts is spoken to us again. That we're more than Aboriginal and non-Aboriginal. That we're more than black and white. That we're more than straight or gay. That we're more than supporters of Greta Vosper and not supporters of Greta Vosper. We are more than any of those divisions we can dream of. We have the capacity to choose to be the wolf lying down with the lamb, the lion eating the straw with the ox. We have the capacity to create a more compassionate way and move into our next merging and cooperative step in our evolution. It's just as big of a task as a lion lying down with a lamb and not eating its head off. Some in this room have health issues and find themselves in the midst of a crisis of pain, a crisis of loss, face to face with death, either their own or of a loved one. Some in this room are faced with unemployment or underemployment, never conceiving that finding work would be a cause of such emotional, economic, and social stress. Some in this room are estranged from family and confronted with questions of belonging, of safety, of questioning where is home. Each crisis in our evolutionary journey has been met with an innovation that has moved life forward in new ways. Problems have always been the evolutionary drivers of transformation. It's no less true in these life moments of ours. A crisis will move us forward. It might not be in the direction we thought, but it will certainly drive us to be creative if we need to be. Our spiritual community is never of one mind and one heart. We are a little microcosm of just regular, ordinary life. We're not all the same on any issue. We have alternative ideas, contrary opinions. We're this way or that. We take tiny prophetic and evolutionary steps when we all are able to make room for ideas that don't agree with ours. And we find the courage and boldness to step into that invitation when it's given to us. Should we be the ones with the conflicting opinion, we have an opportunity to step into that invitation. It's very easy to think of ourselves as one homogeneous group of people. But the call is always the same, whether it's Isaiah, whether it's Jesus, whether it's prophets speaking today. We can't push away diversity. We have to open ourselves even more fully to it, even when it threatens us. And we can't close ourselves off any more than we can with any integrity push away pain or sweep our problems under life's rug or ignore our reality. We can't ignore it for long. We do so at our own peril. Our crises, regardless of what they are a chance to open ourselves to each other, to what mergings might take place. To expand our circle and act with a prophetic vision that merges our best selves with that of others. The call of any prophet at any time is to call us to our best selves. And it's that light, I think, it's that prophetic vision, it's our cooperative and compassionate spirits that have shone brightly and will continue to shine brightly and lead our way to what comes next. And who knows what that will be. But we will continue to be open to the merging of our roads with one another. In light, may it be so for all of us in so many ways.
Shine your light, shine your light. Embrace each heart, the time is right. Shine your light. Shine your light, shine your light. Erase the hate, give hope its sight. Shine your light, shine your light, shine your light. Embrace each heart, the time is right. Shine your light. Take it on your journey, everywhere you go. Take it to the mountain, take it to the valley low. Let your brother see it, and your sister too. Each of us a beacon of light that love can shine right through. Shine your light, shine your light. Embrace the hate, give love its sight. Shine your light, shine your light, shine your light.
it to a neighbor, help in any way. Take it to a stranger, love with all you do and say. Be a light to follow, be a light that leads. Show your friends and family, lift it high and let them see. Shine your light, shine your light. Erase the hate, give hope its sight. Shine your light, shine your light, shine your light. Embrace each heart, the time is right. Shine your light. Shine together, we can shine alone. Come on, everybody, make your light known. Shine together, shine alone. Oh, shine, come on, everybody.